The Kidney Revelation. There is a question-answer exercise I frequently carry out in my entrepreneurial and wealth creation seminars, and I do this to help people realize that they are not poor or hopeless. If they think well, they will discover they have something in them they can use to achieve their dream. We all have gifts, talents, potentials, energy, skills, etc. Question: how many of you have 2 kidneys? Response: all hands always go up. Question: how many kidneys do you need to stay alive and function? Response: some keep quiet. Some say 2, and majority says 1, which is the truth. Question: how much is a kidney in the market today? Response: people laugh, scream, giggle, and chorus different answers because they are beginning to get the message. Question: if all you need is 1 kidney and you have 2, and 1 kidney goes for X amount, why then do you say you are poor when you can exchange 1 kidney for money? Response: the hall erupts most of the time with laughter, argument, refutals with statements like, "I reject it," "God forbid," etc. But they now get it. I neither subscribe to people selling organs or body parts for money, nor am I encouraging anyone to sell his or her kidney. This is a wake-up call strategy to help you realize that your value in life is not determined by your bank balance or balance sheet, and that you have innate potentials, talents, gifts, etc. that you can use to change your world. The trade-by-barter money stage had its own limitations in the face of reality, and it needed to evolve again. Limitations of trade-by-barter. Logistic limitation. Trade-by-barter became limited due to a lot of logistic problems like disagreement on value and quantity and equity, because everyone believed in the superiority of their produce. From not finding someone who had what one needed and needed what one had, which was becoming a major issue. From not finding someone who would accept what one had, that is, they might need what one didn't have in exchange for their produce. One would then have to exchange with someone else before returning to the initial trader. Mobility limitation. The mode of transportation was nothing compared to the present time. Moving produce to someone for an exchange and bringing produce to your abode, etc., was becoming stressful. Storage limitation. Due to the short shelf life of farm produce and the variations in timing of decay from produce to produce, with no technology in place for long-term storage, there was need for a change. At this stage, when the evolution moved to level 3, humanity lost sight of the true identity of money. The problem still exists, which makes billions of people on Earth confuse paper currency for money. Level 3 evolution. The Industrial Age. After discovering that the land was now valuable in the farming level, there were other discoveries which revealed many priceless mineral resources underneath the land, like crude oil, coal, gold, etc. These discoveries sparked up a revolution that dwarfed the farming and agrarian evolution. The limitations of trade by barter, as earlier seen, and the need for a solution paved way for this 3rd level. The farmers had now equally realized that the produce from their farms could also be transformed into other products. For instance, from apple will come apple juice, apple pie, apple puree, etc. From tomato will come tomato juice, tomato paste, tomato ketchup, etc. The school system. Due to the need to get people trained to handle the machines and work in the factories, the school system was introduced. Some slaves from plantations were trained to become slaves in the factory through a system called school. This became necessary because some plantation owners, too, were evolving and becoming industrialists and not only farmers. The job and salary system. As people were being moved from farming to industrial slaves, farming to industrial labor, jobs and salaries were now introduced to give the slaves a feeling or sense of security and value so they could commit their lives to the job and raise their children to do the same. As farming slaves, they barely wore clothes or knickers, but as industrial slaves, they wore overalls or suits and tie like their modern-day counterparts who are corporate slaves with golden handcuffs. They were also measured on a scale before being sold for wages, salary. But now, as industrial or corporate slaves, they are being measured on a salary scale to measure their value and determine their salary. At this stage, people are promised salaries for decades as long as they stay as civil servants, public servants, or otherwise. They are also promised retirement at 65 and monthly pensions afterwards. Wow, what a package for a lifetime of slavery in the labor market. Continuous struggle in the rat race with the golden handcuffs of salaries, benefits, and pension. Also, trade by barter could no longer remain the only means of economic transaction because of change and emergence of new ideas. A decision was made to accept other things apart from farm produce as the instrument and means of exchange, hence the use of cowrie, copper coin, gold coin, etc. as the money or currency of the day, which long predated paper currency. Like the limitations of trade by barter, some limitations were also realized at this stage, like the difficulty in mobility of gold due to weight and risk of storage in terms of security, among others. The World War, the emergence of different groups, nations, and countries on all continents claiming autonomy and wanting to create their own transaction instruments, yet needing to do business with other nations, gave birth to the paper currency. Since gold has been universally accepted as a good value retainer, but vital to be secured, papers were issued as promissory notes. National currencies were accepted as legal tenders and transaction instruments based on the value of gold individuals had backing the paper in reserve. This is what gave birth to the banking industry, government reserves, and central banks. They were to store the gold, issue the notes, and carry out the exchange, trade by barter, on behalf of people who did business together. The paper was as useless and valueless as its worth, but for the gold backing it, it was received. Paper currency is local, but money is universal. People began to lose the understanding of real money as the focus shifted to the quantity of paper they had and not the gold behind it, or the value it has in transaction or in the exchange market. To make matters worse, world leaders decades ago decided to separate gold from paper currency and accept it as money with value on its own, based on trust. That was when the real concept of money finally died in the consciousness of many, and they started seeing paper currency as money. With different nations having different currencies with different values and calling them money, banking became a lucrative business and greed went wild. What you call money in your own country is useless in another, except you go back to the root of money, which is exchange, and you still have to exchange whatever you have for the one accepted wherever you visit. The paper currency is not money, my friend, and it is useless when it has no exchange value in the market of the world. There was the case of a man in Europe who went to the bakery to buy a loaf of bread with a wheelbarrow full of money. He went inside the bakery. By the time he came out, he realized that the money was on the floor, but the wheelbarrow has been stolen because it was more valuable than the load of papers called money. It's the same today in Zimbabwe, where you have to carry millions of dollars of paper, called money, to buy loaves of bread. Just as your checkbook is useless and an ordinary paper if you have no money in your account, your currency is useless and ordinary paper if it has no exchange value in the market. The Great British Pound, GBP, is one currency that stays true to the root of money and helps observant people to realize that it is not money, but just a promissory note. Whenever you hold any pound sterling currency in your hand, like all other currencies, you are not holding money, but holding a promissory note which is only as valuable as its exchange capacity. That is what banking is there to do. That is, it helps you carry out the exchange behind the scene while you carry currency notes, checkbooks, and cards. Many European nations thought what they had was money until it was cancelled by the decision to become the European Union, and in one day the euro currency replaced their old currency and changed the dynamics of their existence. They are just beginning to realize some of the results with the global crises sweeping through now. Do you still think paper currency is money? I doubt so at this stage as we draw close to defining true money. Level 4 Evolution. The Technology and Information Age. The industrial age is no doubt dead, even though many are still living in that era and wallowing in poverty. The world has become a global village, and the internet is the village square. We are now in the technology and information age, and things have changed. Brain power has replaced muscle power. Smart work has replaced hard work, and ideas now rule the world. Money has again evolved, and paper currency is gradually expiring